in place. An agenda of this meeting has been posted on the Utah Public Notice website, on our website, and also given to the news media as per the Open Public Meetings Act. So I'd like to welcome everybody that's here with us tonight. We appreciate you coming and attending tonight. To begin, we'll do roll call, and then we'll have Councilman White give us an opening prayer, and then if you would all follow me in a pledge of allegiance. Councilman Labram, here. Councilman White, here. Councilman Baird, here. Councilman Wade, here. And Councilman Burdick should be coming, so hopefully he'll be walking in a minute. Councilman White.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful this evening to meet together as a city council and as residents of this city and community. We are grateful for the many blessings we enjoy, and especially the beauty of the area and the great people that live here. We're grateful to have the opportunity to meet together and make decisions together on what is in the best interest of the people who live here. We pray that Thy Spirit will guide and direct our thoughts and actions, that we may choose appropriately the course for the future. We are grateful for those who serve to protect and watch over us in their role as police officers, firemen, and other service personnel who help provide for our safety and well-being, and those who also work to keep the services going that we rely upon each day. We pray that Thou will bless the leaders of our country, that they may also seek Thy guidance in their actions and decisions, and pray that we may continue to be blessed with the freedoms which Thou hast granted. Please bless us now this evening. We again give Thee thanks for all that we have. As we say in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we're complete. So, first item, I'd like to review the minutes of the last meeting. We will page by page. Are there any corrections or amendments to page 1? Page 2? And page 3. Seeing none, would entertain a motion to approve.
One Mayor, on page 1, just a spelling catch. Second paragraph, third line down. Yes. Okay. Chris.
We have a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion by Councilman White and second by Councilman Labram. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I know I sound like a broken record, but as is customary with our meetings now, we have the opportunity for the individuals here to take up to 3 minutes to comment to the council. At this comment period time, we ask that do not expect the council to respond. This is just an opportunity for us to hear your concerns. And so, again, you can have up to 3 minutes to comment. Are there any that are present today that would like to take that opportunity? Yes. And please, yeah, come and state your name and.
So my name is Derek Hopper. I'm the general manager of UB Media, who published the Vernal Express, the UN Basin Standard in the Basin Nicolettes. And I just have a couple of questions. I received some calls from some concerned citizens this morning regarding some items that are on the agenda this evening. And some of the questions that they had, and I realize that I'm not most likely going to get an answer or a response back from any of you, but I'd like them stated for the record. Why has the proposed agreement with Johnson Water Improvement District not been discussed since, or in a meeting, or on any record that we could find since July 17th of last year? That would be the first question. And if that is in fact the case, which again, based on what we've been given now, a short period of time, so I've not probably done all my due diligence, in fairness. But if that is in fact the case, then why wasn't an agreement entered into back in July? Because it would seem that if there have been no negotiations since July of last year, why have we waited until this point to enter that agreement? That would be another question. And again, based on some of the information that we were given, and it would appear that there may have been some negotiations that may have occurred between July and this time. And if that is in fact the case, and it wasn't done in an open meeting or in a public meeting, then that would be a clear violation of an Open Meetings Act. So that's another concern that was again pointed out and expressed. Another concern would be, it appears based on the agreement or what has been viewed for the agreement, is that there's no expiration date or ending timetable for the agreement. And so in the best interest of perhaps the city or taxpaying citizens, that might not be the best approach. Again, don't have all the details. And then again, as I stated before, it would appear that there may be some Open Meeting Act violations. Don't know that that's the case. Certainly not saying that that is what has occurred, but on the surface, it appears that that may be the case. Not sure that anybody has any comments.
I'll comment, but not to answer the questions, because that is an agenda item and all of those questions will be answered. And I would be happy to answer any and all of those questions and excited to do so. So I don't know if we would do that right now, but if everyone wants to hang out until after we present the awards, then we'd be happy to address all those.
Yeah, that'd be great. And again, this more than anything is our desire to get all of the information to the community so that they have a clear understanding. And that was some of the concern that was expressed to us.
Sure.
That, hey, we don't have all the facts and we'd like to, this is on our shoulders as taxpayers. So anyway, I appreciate you giving me some time to address those issues.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Any others? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the first agenda item. We have ordinance 2019-422. Now this is Dell Tribe annexation. They've come before, this has come before the council before. That's kind of a preliminary step. And now it is required that we have a public hearing to either annex or not annex that piece. Ryan, would you like to explain a little bit about that annexation?
Yes. So they've applied for a water or a sewer connection, and this is South State Street. I'm just pulling up the map, and the Michigan County parcel viewer is not open, so I'm just pulling up the different options to see if I can pull out. But they have applied for a sewer connection. When they came before the council before, the council had indicated that was that if they annexed, then they could get that. So they've gone through that process. This is the completion of that process. as far as the council is, there's some administrative steps after this, but this would allow them to move forward with that. They have started construction on the home that's down there, and it's right down in, this is State Street, so it's just right down below there. So at this point, we would recommend, from staff perspective, we recommend approval for the council. So,
All right. Are there any questions, first of all, for our city manager from the council? Okay, we'll go ahead and consider ourselves in a public hearing at this time. And any of those that would like to voice an opinion on this annexation can do so. We'd like to do it organized, so if you have a comment, if you come to the front and state your name and where you live, we'll allow you to do that at this time. Seeing none, we'll move back into regular session and would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion from Councilman White,
Seconded.
by Councilman Burdick. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next item is the ordinance 2019-14. This is the last Denver annexation. This is a piece of property, I believe, close to the golf course. Same type of scenario. You want to give us a little?
they were looking for a water connection. It's this lot here that they're wanting to purchase and buy. And it would annex in these two. It was, again, told if they wanted a water connection and they were adjacent to the city limit, that they would have to apply for annexation in order to do that. They've applied, they've gone through the process, and again, the staff would make the recommendation that it be approved. And then there's a few administrative procedures following, sending the lieutenant governor's office, and things like that. But this is up here, South Cove Road. This is hole 14. This piece right here is owned by the city, so it's coming in as well with the annexation, and that would allow us some access into that spot. So we have that one, and it's this lot over here, so those two community.
Are there any questions for our city manager? All right, we'll go ahead and consider ourselves in a public hearing, open it up to the public. Are there any that would like to comment on this piece of property? Seeing none, we'll move back into regular session and would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Wade,
Seconded.
by Councilman Burdick. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Ordinance 2019-424, Winterton property rezone. This is something we talked about to the Winterton Town in December, and it was suggested that we go ahead and rezone the half acre, I believe it's about a half acre of property, to an R110 to allow a house to be built. It was agreed to move forward with that and take it to a public hearing. Do you have anything to add to that?
At this point, it doesn't show, but the lot split was approved, and I assume recorded.
Can you sign that?
Yeah.
No, signed it.
I have it recorded. I've got it ready to go.
Okay, but that would be the lot, just to kind of give reference. The cemeteries over here, the R110 is this piece here that's zoned, and so it's across the street from that piece. So it has gone through planning and zoning. It had a split vote there, has come back here and is looking for that, and they're sure to talk about.
Right, in planning and zoning, just to clarify, it was several abstained, well, a few abstained, and then the others voted for it, and so it didn't pass, but it wasn't rejected either. So it came before the council. Do you have any comments or questions on that piece?
One of the biggest questions, as we discussed it on the city council, is the connection of the sewer and where things were. I know that's still a concern. Where it's located and having a right of way for the city to always be able to get there if it needed to be there. Are we making any restrictions or that, so there is a right of way? Or is it just, is that gonna be
Yes, it
designated?
comes in from over IFA across and comes across the back of the yards to the corner there where Phillips' land is. It's right on the corner, and it runs across over where Ron's house was, Leanne Ames's now.
Well, there's some like fireworks trailers or something parked right kind of where.
There
the
is,
manhole
they
is.
get in there.
I couldn't see the manhole, but I saw that it might have been underneath.
Well, let's open it up to public hearing and let's, because
Those
we,
trailers are on Leanne's property, and that right of way is right behind it. There's a fence there, and then that right of way is right behind that fence.
let's go ahead and consider ourselves in a public hearing for this. And that way we can discuss it. That was Mr. Winterton who spoke. We gotta keep all the, I'm trying to help Carolyn keep all the names straight and everything. She's got to take good minutes for us, and so, not a problem. But yeah, Keith, if you wanna, is there anything else? So now is that a deeded right away or something that is described?
Yeah,
on the-
we got it, right away goes behind there. They
Okay,
used to have that canal through there.
perfect. Okay.
And so the Don's, well, Steve went, anyway, they put a pipeline in, runs over around just the corner and just straight across the road through that culvert. And the water hookup is just to the east of that, we come up and across. And so it should all be right there. And that sewer can come right down where they want to build, right down to that corner.
Okay. Are there any others that would like to comment on this?
I would like to.
Yes.
My name is Bruce Weatherston, and I live right across from this lot. What it is, it's a quality of life issue. When I first moved there, that was county, and that's one of the big reasons why I moved there is because, some of us don't want to live where neighbors are set right on top of each other. And so I moved to that place where I had some elbow room, tried to keep it that way. Now, and as this was pointed out in the zoning meeting, this could be a win-win situation for everyone. I have approached Mr. Winterton a couple of times with a suggestion that we discuss me purchasing that property. And that way then he could use that money to buy a lot somewhere else that, was already situated for that and wouldn't have to have a zoning change. And so I would request there are other alternatives other than building right on that place that are available. And so I would encourage the council not to change the zoning.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any others that would like to comment? Are there any other comments from the council?
I know when we had this discussion in November, we had talked about the feasibility of sewer lines going up from the south. Was there any feedback from the engineers on slopes and what could and couldn't happen there?
There was, and I haven't been able to get that from engineers. We can. At this point, the staff always likes to have things in the roadway because they're easy to get to and maintain. I mean, it's clearly our preferences we've said before. So the equivalent, I understand that it would be tough digging on this particular spot, but it does leave us being able to have connections and those places that we have it in their backyards become a difficult one for us. And we have some of that happening. When we clean, it's not as easy for us to clean and get back there. But if there's something that happens in the belly that occurs, it's harder to access things in the backyard. So that's the staff, obviously, recommendation would be to have the sewer line in the road. Sewer and water, because then we can access from there. That's not this lot, that's, we would prefer that anyway. It doesn't have anything, that specific one doesn't have anything to do with this lot. But as far as depth, I'd have to look, I don't have that information.
May I make a comment?
Sure,
on that? When we were annexed into the city, and I mentioned I was kicking and screaming the whole time it was happening. And one of the reasons is because we had no service as far as water or sewer. And that was the reason it was told to us is that there is not enough drainage. And so if that's for our house right across the street, what would it be, on this proposed lot?
And that raises a question, neither good nor bad. Have you had any issues with that line up to this point?
None at all.
And so,
Mayor, that's one of the big things that I struggle with on this particular thing. There's about, how many, 4 or 5 houses that connect already to the existing sewer.
Onto that, me, Arvin, and Diane's, and
Leanne's.
Philip's house, and Leanne's,
So there's at
and
least,
then mine.
so
There's what,
5,
5 already?
6. Okay, so if there's gonna be a problem with that, it already exists. And so to me, that's not a reason not to allow somebody to build a house there, because there's already a sewer line there that's being used. And even if they were made to put in a sewer line on 8 South, then the other one would have to be abandoned and everybody connect. So that's one of the things that I've been really thinking about is what do we solve? What problem is solved if we don't allow that zone change and another house to be built there? And to me, the problem exists, and it'll be a problem whether we do or don't.
When you say south, which way are you thinking?
Just if it were moved onto the roadway, if
If there's nothing out there to catch,
no,
if they all come to the rear.
right. So I'm just saying that the problem that we're talking about is already there.
Already there.
And adding one more house isn't going to make it better or worse or different. It's already there.
and along with that, it's not, and I can understand your concern. I'm kind of a protectionist too when it comes to surrounding areas, but it's not a subdivision we're talking about either. I guess if it was a major subdivision or something like that, that would change the situation, and then that would be something to consider. I agree with
I think that's the
Councilman
same line, size as over across there. We have this cafe where it used to go down through and you run high or Moon Lake across the road and pick up the others and all dump them in the same line there, which is the same size, I think.
So the question I would say is there any concern with the line being inadequate size-wise?
There was talk that the water line maybe with that, I think it was only 4-inch water line that feeds it, and I don't know that one.
The water line,
The water line, is it only 4-inch?
it's which,
Is it only a 4-inch line, the water line?
I'm not sure, they stuck it off there for me.
Yeah.
On that,
So
that's that main line.
But as far as the sewer line, there's no,
I don't know that there is. And then ours is just, we as staffers are sensitive about it because we have an incident that we packs up in somebody's house and we can't get at it because we're back to our, we're dealing with that. in
well, if it does, at
other
least you're all
areas.
related.
Well, there's been 2 lines, 4-inch, and then I both the other 6-inch went out and they crossed over somewhere by Bobby's house and went and down through the gulch and up on the other side. And,
Yeah, we have a sewer line right through that.
yeah, on the other side of that water line across, put a big way in. And then it came back and fed, Roosevelt Street there. Because going one way and they missed it, and anyway, finally they made it back. And then I hooked onto it there, but it was, I'm not quite sure just what it was, but
Are there any other questions or discussions? Comments? Seeing none, would entertain the motion.
No, we need to move back out.
Oh, yeah, we better move back out of public hearing and back into regular session. We'll consider ourselves back in regular session. Now I entertain a motion. All motions. To grant the sewer connection to the Woodlands, is that?
Zone
The zone
change.
the zone change to approve that.
Yeah.
Here, what we've been discussing.
I'll second it.
So that was a motion to approve the 2019 424 Winterton property rezone from commercial to R110. And we have a motion by Councilman Baird and a second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is Todd Farley conditional use permit. This is kind of near the pool, just on the north side of the pool, I believe. And Ryan, would you explain kind of what's happening with that? Thank you, Keith, for being here.
So just trying to pull that one up. What there is there's a shed already built there. It's just across from the Central Park. And what he's looking to do is put another shed on the same property. The property is small, probably wouldn't fit a house. And so we're saying, you know, to have that building probably fine. I've been on site, looked at the area, looked at what he's had got, as well as our building department and zoning. It did go to zoning, and they recommended it, so they didn't see a problem with it. I just pulled up the respect here.
Was there any findings on setbacks and stuff like that? Did they
So he can fulfill the setbacks. The only one would have been, because it's a residential lot, obviously they're designed for a residential house to be built on those. And that's why he has to come for conditional uses, because it varies from that residential use. He's putting, and his house is right here. So the Central Park is down here. His house is here. He has this white shop here, and he's looking to put a shop here, and it would fit the setbacks. So, but the biggest reason why it had to come is because there's not a residential spot there, and he's building something other than residential spot and residential.
That's the old Hollis Hollinger property right there.
Correct. I believe that's correct. It's this lot right here, and he's gonna put some of his cars in it from storage. Just hasn't had a problem with patterns on it. Recommended for approval there. It's coming.
We had somebody, Nancy. You're still on the planning commission, correct? Do you have anything to
No.
add to that?
We're okay with that. I think there's some
You never know what-
discussions or problems.
Any questions or comments from the council?
My observation is kept that pretty neat and orderly all the time when I've been by there.
I just remember admiring his, because he has, some antique stuff and some old stuff out front, but he does keep in good shape, and it's kind of neat to see. We'll go ahead and move into public hearing and would allow the public to comment on that. So are there any here, first of all, are there any here that would have gotten notified of this, and would they have a comment? Seeing none, we'll move back into regular session and would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman White to approve the conditional use permit for Todd Farley, and a second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now, to submit, fun stuff. So each year, there's an extra mile day, which is in November. But we decided to celebrate it in January. And so we, Lee has went out in social media and other places and advertised that people would submit names for people that deserve, I don't know, to be recognized in our community for things that they've done, for the hard work they put in, the service they perform. And so we have chosen 3 of those, and I'm going to read and embarrass them a little bit, but that have been submitted and decided on by the council. And so now I'm kind of new at this because it's the first time I've done this. So how have they done this in the past? I'll just read it and then we'll present the awards.
That's fine.
That sound right?
We've never done this before, so these are our first recipients.
So this is groundbreaking here. First of all, we'll start with Tara Malett. She's back in the back. Give us a big wave. So I know Tara a little bit from high school, but she is Irene Hanson's daughter. I have a couple of things that I'd like to read that people have shared about her. First of all, this one says, Tara serves our community daily. She not only works for the Duchesne County School District in the Special Education Department as a teacher at Centennial Elementary, but she also helps organize the Family Fun Day over Labor Day weekend. She is always helping out other community members who are in need. She goes out of her way to make sure that those in need get extra assistance with family members or their children. She is often babysitting or constantly has house guests so that parents or grandparents can have surgeries or get to the city for a doctor's appointment. She is highly involved in the Baptist Church and serves the youth in that capacity as well. I think she is a pretty amazing person who devotes her life to serving others in our community. I believe that she is highly deserving of this award, and I know she does more than I ever am aware of. So, and then I have a couple other things here. I asked her mother just to give me a few things too. So, says Tara has loved and been a part of our community for her entire life. As soon as she was old enough to take tickets, she worked at various events in Roosevelt, such as the Halloween Parade, UBIC Holly Fair, Enchanted Forest, and Sub for Santa. In recent years, almost all of her volunteer time involved helping children who she has dearly come to love. Tara loves to show love and appreciation to others and is always providing thank you gifts for coworkers and supervisors. Tara always has a family or person she has taken under her wing to help inspire and nurture so they can have a better life. So with that, we'll do them one at a time. I'll make this decision. With that, we'd like to congratulate and thank Tara for all that she has done, and I think she deserves a round of applause. Come up, we'll present you with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was good.
Thank you.
You don't need a picture, right?
Yeah, well, I did. Of course.
I think the council ought to be in it too.
Sure. Come on.
No, that's free.
All right. Okay, look right at me, smile. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more, don't move. 1.
Wait, I believe.
That's fine, you get another chance. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. All right, we have one other. I don't see the third, so maybe we'll save that one. What do you think? Yeah?
Sure.
So next is a friend of mine. I didn't nominate her, but I should have probably. Megan Zobel has been nominated, and we thought that it would be appropriate to recognize her for all that she's done for our community. This says Megan this is from somebody that nominated her. Megan is an amazing icon in the community. You see her at games and out at the hospital events, of course. She makes sure to keep the UBH calendar full of community outreach projects and amazing things for the whole community. She volunteers with each of her children at their schools and is always a bright, cheery partner whenever you need someone to come alongside of you and help you get the word out. She is a treasure beyond measure. And me personally, I've known Megan since high school, but didn't really know her that well. But since then, I've become friends with her and her family. And, you know, I can't even think or put a number to how many hours of service she's put in for our community through the 5K she does with the walk run she does with the hospital, all the events that she's been a part of. I know she's called me a couple times, what do you think about this? I said, just do it. I remember we were thinking about an event, or I wasn't. She just called me and said, what do you think? I said, because, you know, it's hard times in the community, and she didn't know if people would be able to donate. And I said, just do it, they'll donate. And they did, and they supported her. And she's done several things like that in our community. And not only big, large scale things, but things on a personal basis that I personally know about. And just like to thank her and congratulate her and recognize her for that. And would ask that everyone give her a round of applause.
She keeps Craig going too there.
All right, same thing. We're gonna take two. Look right at me and smile. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
And we have one for Dan and probably Karen, but we'll wait on that one. We'll present it to them personally. So we like, for something like that, I think it's important that we do show appreciation to those in our community for all they do. Sometimes we get stuck on the things that are not so positive, and it's a good opportunity to recognize the positive things that people do in our community. So thank you very much. Okay, the next one is the Johnson Water Agreement Review and Approval. And so, do we have that contract that we could pull up? And I think it would be appropriate to address some of Mr. Hopper's concerns. And I wrote a couple of them down, but Derek, if you like, remind me of a few of those, and we'll hit them bullet point by bullet point.
Sure. Would you like me to come forward again, or?
Either way.
Okay. I'll just stand here if that's all
That's
right.
fine.
So the first question or concern was, why has the proposed agreement not been discussed in a meeting since July 17th of last year?
Okay.
I don't know if you want to kind of tackle these individually.
Okay, so yeah, we can do it one at a time. I think that'd be
It
appropriate.
might be easier to stay on point.
Sure. So the Johnson Water contract is something that I've worked on for several years. It's, I can't even, that's what you know, it's probably been 5, 6, 7 years. I mean,
Well, and the reason that has been over 20 in actually history is maybe, yeah.
So this isn't something new. This is something that's been discussed, and we've had it, and we've discussed it as a council. We, you know, we went and it's really been the friction that's been created between Johnson Water and Roosevelt City has been detrimental. It's been between the two parties. It's been detrimental for our taxpayers. There's been a lot of time spent on trying to come up with some type of an agreement or something that would function and work between the two. I've spent time talking to other municipalities. And so the question as to why it has not been discussed since that day. So I'll take you through, and Dave Labrum and Councilman White has been involved. Our city manager's been involved. Our city finance director's been involved. And our water department head has been involved the whole time. Even though it hasn't been in front of the council as an official document since July 2018, it's been looked at and many eyes have seen it. And these are, first of all, I have to go back to one of the comments that you made that was about whether or not we were following public notice or public open meetings act, right? Open Public Meeting Act. And the fact of the matter is if we are not making a decision or deciding on something, it doesn't have to be brought before the council. The other thing is, as long as we're not violating the quorum statute, meaning as long as there's not more than a quorum present, we can meet and discuss on an individual basis or however we'd like. Ultimately, though, whatever contract and whatever is negotiated and discussed ultimately has to come before the public in a public meeting to be approved. And that's exactly what's happened. And so there's been not even close to any violation of the Public Meetings Act. And in fact, we're right on key. And the fact that you had the knowledge and that our citizens had the knowledge is encouraging to me, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. This contract has been out to the council and the public for the last week for their review before we actually decide whether or not we'll move forward with it. So those have been accounted for. Why it hasn't been discussed, one, it kind of went stagnant there for quite a while. Yeah, you go ahead.
In July, that's when we had put together some ideas of what we would like to have be in the contract. We brought it before the council and said, is this okay? Is this what we should move forward with? That was said yes. And then since then, we've been trying to actually come up with a solid agreement based upon those things that were agreed upon in July.
Okay. And so as far as that goes, many contracts are discussed on individual basis, and then they'll come before the body for approval, and everyone will know what's in there, and we have it here for everyone to see. And we'll even go through it step by step. Do you have another concern?
Well, I think you probably addressed the second part, which was if there haven't been any private meetings, so I think we're okay on that one. So I think that addressed that one as well. One of the other concerns was a potential expiration date or a consideration of maybe a renewal or those types of things that's not in the agreement.
Right, and that's something that the agreement in and of itself is pretty final, but it's not entirely final. Does that make sense? And I'll allow, people to comment. And expiration, part of the reason when we set out to do this was that this was a contract that would be not something that would only last 5 years and then put us back into the same situation we're in now, but it would be something that could be perpetuated for a long, long term. And so, we've tried to mitigate any of the negative impacts of not having that timeline or that end by restricting or the amount that our increases could be and those types of things. And so, it's not to say that it absolutely couldn't. It's just to say that when we went forward with the contract, and if anybody would like to speak, please do so. But we went forward with the thought that this isn't a 5-year contract. This is something that we want in place for a good long time so we don't continually have these issues between the two parties. Ultimately, what our goal is, and what's happened up to this point, is there's been lines that have been duplicated. So that's wasting the taxpayers' money by duplication of lines. Attorney's fees that are wasting taxpayers' money by litigation. And so we're trying to avoid all of that now and avoid that into the future. So anyway, do you have anything to add, Dusty, to that?
Yeah, well, I think it's a consideration.
Dusty Montz is with Johnson Water.
Yeah.
And so he's a board member
Right.
with Johnson
Board of
Water.
Trustees there. We're moving, or we're reestablishing boundaries to allow Roosevelt City, because it's about jurisdiction, right? There's fences, reasons for fences, just to make sure that everybody knows that they can operate within those. So because of past we've had to readjust, past actions, we have to readjust how, how we interact in those boundaries, because we have some overlap. And so this establishes a working boundary that allows Roosevelt City to work unencumbered in those areas that Johnson Water has the jurisdiction, but Roosevelt City overlaps as well. And so it cleans that up. Years and years of mess, it cleans it up and sets it right to where now Roosevelt City, removing that boundary, the agreement boundary, to where Roosevelt City can now operate unencumbered in those areas without having to have administrative controls, without having extra costs involved to make Roosevelt City growth and desires for whatever they desire to do in those boundaries uninhibited. And so it's a boundary thing, and boundaries, fences should never change unless it becomes a separate contract or annexation or withdrawal. And so in order for this contract, really, it should stay this until that point. And if you want to dissolve that contract, then you go for petition of withdrawal or
Someone mean,
yeah.
so, yes,
But
please.
it wasn't just for Roosevelt City and Johnson Water, it was a real problem with all the citizens to know who to go to and then to get water or get sewer or get this. And that was one of our biggest reasons, is to eliminate our own, whatever caused us to be where we were at, problems. So in the future, the public will really know who has that service, and especially out in the industrial area by the airport, where there was lots of issues out there. And it's been a positive thing. It's like any negotiation. There's give and take on both sides. And I think we've moved ahead forward. There's things we don't particularly like that would have been better for us, and the same for Johnson. And yet, that's something that I've been grateful to be part of, is both of us were willing to give and take, unlike we see our national government doing right now, and where it gets shut down. And we could see those things coming because there were so many hard feelings, and it became personal instead of what's right for the citizens. And some might say this isn't all right for the Johnson Water community or all right for the city community, but I think it's been a very positive movement forward. That's
1 minute.
I might just add to that, I guess, relative to the agenda and the discussion, that's really the good work of the committee that's happened now. Tonight is the night we're going to discuss the contract. You know, we've had an opportunity to look at it, read it, go through it. I have some comments. I'm sure some of the other council has comments. I'm sure the Johnson Water District will be doing the same type of a situation with their board of trustees as well. So I think the processes were good to this point. I think we just have to now, you know, put the final touches on it and get things done.
Thank you.
Well, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. As I said, my role, I'm not here to stir things up. I'm not here to cause problems. Certainly the paper, that's not our goal. Our goal is to try to keep everyone informed. And we feel like we have a responsibility to our readers to try to do that the best way that we can. And again, this was only brought to my attention. Literally, you know, late yesterday, this morning. And so I felt like we did what we did so that we could try to get people here. So if they did have concerns, they could feel like they participated in the process.
Sure. And I hope that we see another article that would state exactly what we're doing and why.
I'm recording everything that's going on, and so the intention is that there will be an article. Yes.
We will allow some public comment. Please, we know who you are, but maybe.
My name's Gordon Snow. I'd like to address the contracts in general, maybe not even this particular one. It is always a good idea to have an expiration date on the contract. We learned that with the city of Howard. We didn't have one, and it was a confusing time to establish that. If a contract is fair and right today, and it remains fair and right, it will be easy to renew and should be. But a contract, I don't remember one example in my history that a contract that isn't right, it's better with an expiration date where it can be renewed by either party and remain fair and right.
Good comment, thank you. So let's go through it a little bit. And to give a little bit of the understanding, so that people understand, because I know some people that I've talked to or heard from, they say, well, why would we do that? It's in Roosevelt City. So let me explain a little bit. Johnson Water's district boundaries there are some boundaries that lie within Roosevelt City limits, which means that boundary, they have the ability and the right to provide water in those areas. And what's happened is Roosevelt City's put lines in to some of those areas. And so that's been a point of conflict with Roosevelt City and Johnson Water for a good long time. And the struggle over whose right it is to do that. Well, according to state statute, it's Johnson Water's right to do that. And so Roosevelt City has made those decisions, and now we're having to deal with those decisions and how we can best remedy that situation. And so the contract that's drawn up, there were certain points to the contract that we wanted to make sure were covered. First and foremost, Roosevelt City wanted to be able to provide water in those services so that growth would not be inhibited and we could provide water to our customers. That was one of the things. We wanted to make sure that we weren't duplicating lines and wasting the taxpayers' money. That was another big thing. Another thing was Johnson Water has grants and money associated that they've been given, bonds and things that were given in faith that they would be able to recoup that money by the revenue they would receive in their boundary. However, with Roosevelt being in their boundary, we're receiving the revenue that they potentially may have received. And so to compensate them or make them whole to satisfy their bonds is one of those things that we had to look at and figure out how we were going to do. And do we want to read the whole thing? It's not that long, but has anybody not seen this on the council or not read through it? And the things in purple, I have to say, are things that were supposed to be sent out on Friday, but apparently I may have made a mistake and there was some miscommunication. There were some final touch-up things that should have been in the contract that you received, but they were changed since then, and so it's in purple so that everybody can see.
Mayor, I just have a few, I've looked at the contract and I appreciate it being sent out. I haven't seen that one, but I just have a few questions I'd like to visit about with the council about it when you're ready. Sure.
May I say one thing before?
Yes.
Is that all right? Okay. Just as you were saying about the water, one of the reasons that the city did those things too is because the public came to the city because they wanted sewer. I mean, and we could provide sewer and Johnson Water couldn't. And instead of really working those things out, we did it. The public wanted that. They've gone on both sides of us. So it wasn't just the city wanting to go out and take it all over. It was the public wanting that too. Just so that's,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just a few things and that might help you kind of move through them. Because I'll start at the top and just go down through.
Gotcha.
The first couple there that I have thoughts on would just be more relative to language identification in a contract. And if we identify Johnson Water as a special service district, in B, I would suggest we would identify Roosevelt as a municipality. That's just more consistent legally with the language that would be utilized. I think we could clarify purpose a little bit in C and D, I think we could drop the last sentence on D as well, as we're moving forward and not necessarily worried about the things in the past.
Yeah,
That would change a little bit of language just with Roosevelt going through there, just saying municipalities to Roosevelt. On 3, this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the contract as it does. What is the cost of that? I would like to, as a council, to understand as we take that part of infrastructure over. What is that going to cost us? Is there things we need to be aware of that are going to cost us to upgrade or do anything? I don't know. That's a question that I have. On 4, meters, what is the cost of those and how many are there? Should the cost be shared? And on 5, well, I think that would be best, that was the meters. 6 and 7, I think, really address some things that I know that both entities were working on with fire flow. I'm tickled to see those in there, that there's a good plan in place to get proper fire flow in place for those that need water services. On 9, I liked the way that things were addressed there to try to, I really thought that showed some good thought process from the committees on what happens in this scenario, what happens in that scenario, how does this happen, how does that happen. The only thing I would suggest in there is from a citizen's perspective, if I'm the one needing water, I would want Johnson to have the ability, if they're looking at a piece of property and saying, it's just not feasible for us, period, that they would have the ability to expedite that and simply send communication to the council and say, we're not going to do this, go ahead. Because right now that could derail someone for a year's time. I don't like that. So I think we ought to do something to add some clarity there.
to speak to that really quickly, because that's a thought that I had. One of the things is what the public will come to realize is, and with the relationship that we're forming with Johnson Water, when they come in for a building permit per se, they're going to have in certain areas permission from Johnson Water to do that. And you're right, we give them up to 2 months because sometimes people will drag their feet, and getting an actual building plan and showing need and those types of things. We give them that long just so that they can get all the information together. But I agree, it might not hurt to have something where, and they could just say, I don't know how that works exactly, but I get what you're saying.
Something needs to be in there to allow them the ability to expedite that. After process, I mean, they're gonna look at this through a process and say, makes sense, we're gonna proceed and we're gonna go ahead and extend this line. Or they may say, doesn't make sense at all, we're not gonna do it now, it doesn't make sense in a year. They have the ability to push that forward. That's just a good PR language in there that I would suggest. 11 would be a question that I would have for our legal counsel. I'm not really even sure what a tolling agreement is legally in a dispute resolution. That's just an education thing. I'd like to understand what that is.
One more tolling extends or holds in bay the statute of limitation. So it's related to the statute of limitation. Says, well, we're going to ignore the statute of limitation and hold it in bay. We're going to toll it out. And so that's what a tolling agreement is, and holds it in bay.
Okay.
So,
The other one, Mr. Snow brought up, I appreciated that. I too agree we need to have a sunset clause in here to look at it. I deal in contracts a lot, have done for my entire career, and that's always a good thing to have in place. The language can be crafted that everybody's looking at it, but if it is a good agreement, it was a good agreement for everybody. The other one I would ask the council for us to look at would be just, on the rate. That is a little higher than we had thought we may be. Maybe a point of discussion we ought to look at. That's back on 5. there again, I appreciate the work that the committees have done, because it's been good. And I know it's been difficult, and I know it's been cumbersome, and I know we made a lot of progress. I say that in that I think incorporating some of these thoughts can just help us get a better agreement.
Any, well, let's go through some of those unless somebody else has some comments or thoughts.
I appreciate the depth there and the concerns. And that's what this open meeting's for, is so we can get it to where it should be. Exactly.
So let's start with the language in the first couple. I think
That's easy.
yeah, that can be pretty quick.
3 is the first question I have with cost. Is there cost associated with us taking it as, it says it's as is, where it is, without expressed or implied warranties of any kind? I'm just wondering, is the condition, the general condition of that line, what's it in?
You know,
I don't know.
I know we talked to Ryan Claiborne and he was supposed to be getting with Dixon, and we have some individuals from Johnson Water here. Has that been done?
I don't know that one.
Okay. So do you have any idea what condition those lines are in?
Jim would better answer that one.
6-inch line running down 2000. It's an older line. We haven't had any problems with it. It's on the west side of that. And
When was it installed? If you were to guess.
80s.
80s, okay. All right. But you haven't had any issues with it?
No.
And there were talks on that, just to bring that up, there were talks whether Roosevelt would buy the infrastructure. Because what we'll end up getting is about 12 to 14 hookups. So we'll have the connection fee, or, you know, however much it costs to connect that line. But then we also collect the revenue and everything. That's part of the negotiations as far as where lines were duplicated. Johnson was willing to give that up to stay true to the contract and the intent of the contract. And they decided to do that at no cost to Roosevelt City as far as purchasing the infrastructure. And so we decided that was fair of them to do, and it would be fair of us to tie that line in at our cost. So.
And what really,
No, you're fine.
what really goes into that, again, in those negotiations were, again, the citizens and the duplication of everything. And, you know, when there is a problem out there, and who do they get a hold of, and all these type of things play. The industrial park is a great thing for the Roosevelt City, but our sewer and water is not really a money maker out there because they don't use a lot of water, most of them. And, but it's the convenience of trying to help as the city to help infrastructure and transportation and all of these things to work together. But we did discuss about what it was like. We all knew that it isn't new, and we're not getting any big gifts there of any, you know, great new things, but we'll know who's responsible for it and who's going to take care of it. And for the overall, it's going to be a good thing for all of those that are businesses out there and the future ones to know what's going to happen.
Correct.
So the question I got, I think you said 6-inch pipe, is that right?
Yes.
So what material is that pipe?
PVC.
Okay. I mean, I was just curious because that obviously gives you an idea of lifspan and those types of things.
Star wrapped around the outside.
I just thought I'd ask.
It's good stuff.
It's not.
Well, yeah,
But there is some of that still in Roosevelt.
you just got a tree and hollowed it out.
Yeah.
and stuff.
I had an old home in Richfield that had that old pipe and it collapsed and it wasn't pretty. So I was just curious.
So no anticipated cost there.
Well,
It's on
whatever
we're
the
on
time
different sides of
is.
the road, so we'd have to cross the road and tie in.
So,
Um,
and is that something our crews could do, or would we have to hire that done?
might have to hire, but I don't know. We'd have to look. It's possible.
As far as cost go, I don't see it being a large cost.
It would be connecting. It's pipe crossing the road, tie in, and probably a valve to close off where they're coming from. So I know we've talked about it, people were looking at it, I don't know whether you caught with fixing lines.
So with that, we don't anticipate a high cost or a very large cost associated with that. Doesn't sound like the line has any issues. The meters, the question was, how much is that going to cost? Our city manager sent something out today. We were anticipating, and I was anticipating a cost of much less for the meters than what was sent out to the council today. That is kind of late, but it is important to have before us. So the email that was sent out is $166,000 is what it cost to put 4 meters. Now, the meters, it was suggested, that was our city manager had suggested that we talked about how to read all the individual meters that were located in Johnson Water's boundary. And he had suggested that we put meters in where the boundaries, where our lines intersect the boundaries. And with the anticipation that we have an agreement with an oil company that they would provide some money to help Roosevelt City with some infrastructure. And so they have committed up to $150,000 for that infrastructure. There may be another, and also they promised or had committed to 2 connections, 2 meters in Roosevelt City's area. They've only put in 1, so we might be able to get them to put in the other one as part of the contract, and then we'd have that $150,000. So if it worked out accordingly, it really wouldn't cost Roosevelt City anything to put those meters in, and that's what the intent was when our city manager proposed that. And so, that's that cost there.
And that's fantastic. I would just suggest, me, before I'm excited about saying, hey, let's find what the real cost is.
Yeah.
If there's a cost associated with it, great. If there's not, better. But at least we can really make a real informed decision on what that is. That's all.
Sure.
On that one.
So the payment to Johnson Water in 5, the 50 cents per thousand, we had our finance director, John, involved with this heavily. John, how many hours did you spend on that?
A lot.
So
Well, I can't give you a number because I'm not sure, but it'll be a lot of time.
yeah. So one of the things that I asked for right in the beginning of the agreement was how much I wanted to rate our depreciation. I wanted to find out how much it was going to cost to replace all the pipe and everything else, and where our break-even mark was with all of that down there. He went to work and really did a lot of research in what our costs were, the breakdown, everything else. And he came back with a number of 40 cents that we could potentially offer Johnson Water that would not put Roosevelt City in any, and if I misspeak, you just stop me and say, that's not what I said. And he's not as bad. He and our city manager presented those numbers to us, to Dustin and I, and Councilman White and I, and Councilman Lehman. And we discussed those heavily. And so that was the number we went in with, thinking that we'd be comfortable with. However, that was not agreeable with Johnson Water. We did negotiate that, and we did what we could to negotiate that. They felt like 50 cents was fair, and that's a number that they have used to buy and sell and wheel water and things for other companies. And so we went back to our financial director and our city manager and said, what kind of a position is that going to put us in? And is that going to make that big of a difference? And they seemed to think at the time that it wasn't what we wanted, but it was something that we could deal with and that we could handle without having to increase the taxpayers' rates or anything else. So again, it's not affecting what the taxpayers will pay in that area. It's just really affecting what Roosevelt City's bottom line will be. And but taking into consideration that all of our infrastructure and those depreciation costs and everything are worked into that price, making sure that we come out whole, Johnson Water comes out whole. And that's where we landed on that 50 cents.
And we all feel that way. I mean, we feel
It's,
that we're there.
that was one of the things we're not as happy with, but I think we started on the offerings lower than 40 cents too, substantially, wasn't it? I don't remember exactly, but I remember the other party not being very happy with our offer.
We felt like 40 cents was where was the cush, and if we could keep half and they could keep half, then everybody'd be happy. So we started at 20 cents.
But it's been the interesting thing is trying to be fair to everybody without knowing everything, especially all the underground things. But I really appreciated working with our group and with Johnson Water when we did. I thought a lot of good things happened. Some healing of feelings and hopefully some great movement forward in a positive manner instead of always being adversaries. We'll be team oriented to work growth out and make things work. So.
What was the next?
Next one, I said, I think 6 and 7, I think were great to address that. I also like the language in 5 with the adjustments and the thought process of the two committees and how do we handle rate increases in the future? That's important, and I thought that was addressed in a way that makes sense. Next one I think was in 9, and that was relative to the conversation we already spent a few minutes on from a citizen's perspective that I think Johnson needs to have the ability to expedite that should they choose to. So I think that would be some language that needs to be placed into section 9.
Maybe has up to 60 days, but we'll make an effort, do everything possible to get it done. I don't know how we.
They're usually when people they come to us, I'm sure it's no different for you guys. They're coming to half, 20 speak, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I apologize there. Usually they come and they'll say, I'm going for a building permit. I need to know that there's water available. Then they're preliminary looking to say, okay, we've got line here. They're not going to tell us, what size of connection. Usually they sometimes do, sometimes they don't. They don't know what their flows are requirements and all that stuff that they need to have so we can officially approve one. But there's that preliminary, hey, is water available for this area? And we'll tell them, yeah, go ahead, and we'll send a letter to the county and say that you can go ahead and approve the building permit, and then they'll come back and this is what the requirements are, and then we'll approve the application based on that. So maybe something could happen with that preliminary request.
Okay.
I just think it would just help that agreement.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's something that we can look at. I mean, we can approve the agreement with some of these contingencies or things that we'll look at and maybe add in there. So, any others?
The back payment, there's a message about back payment there.
So the back payment, what that does is that allows Roosevelt City. So Johnson Water has agreed to shut your water off if you don't make payments to Roosevelt City. So that's something, a tool that we use when we don't get payments from citizens for a time, then we can shut their water off, and sometimes that'll motivate them to pay their payment. Well, with Johnson Water providing the water, we wanted to be able to have an agreement with them that said, if we're not receiving payments from a certain customer that you provide water to, it needs to be working together that you would then help us in that regard. Is that one?
I'm specifically talking about Axia, Kamaholo.
Okay.
Are we paying, how's that happening now? We've been paying monies to Johnson Water, we've not been paying monies to Johnson Water. So this would be a catch-up payment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was discussed with the council when we started the agreement, that whatever was accumulated through 2018, once the agreement was final, would be calculated and paid out to Johnson Water, because that was a concern of theirs.
We were anticipating it ending sooner than it has,
Yeah.
but
The last one I have is just the sunset review clause, and I would feel strongly everybody needs that in there. I mean, it's just an important thing to have. The language of it, we can get it where we want it to, but there needs to be a time call where everybody come together and say, hey, how's this working? Let's talk about it.
I strongly agree with that.
and we did learn a lot on the Ballard, hopefully.
I really want to reiterate, I really do compliment the committees that went to work on this, because it's been months, and I'm glad to see this come forward. So thank you to everybody involved.
I think I echo what Councilman Quaid says. I can't approve something that is not full. I think these changes need to be made and an entire agreement put before me before I can vote to approve it. There's a lot of changes.
So are there any other comments or thoughts from the council?
I just think what's happened tonight is what we wanted to happen. I didn't really anticipate voting for the final approval tonight, but with people knowing that we're working to that goal, it's brought a lot more concern and involvement. And I agree full-heartedly that we should approve it until we all agree, but we're getting every incremental steps getting us closer to it. So, and this is a great thing. And we've never tried to keep it hidden. It's just that we knew it'd take a longer time, and to get it narrowed down to points where we could really get the final parts done. It's been a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. It'll be a lot better because of it.
So, we've discussed the rates, so we know exactly what those costs are associated. I guess the only question would be the changes so let's identify right now the major changes. So we've identified the sunset clause, so having an end date to the agreement. According to what I'm hearing from the council, that's something that we want to make sure it's in there. And we talked about the costs. I don't feel like the costs are negotiable at this time, because that's why it's taken over a year to get to this point, is we've hammered on those a lot. The cost of putting in the meters, yes, it's more than we anticipated. Jones and DeMille is here. I believe they provided the cost estimate. That's something that we could look at, but something that we've already kind of accounted for when we went into this, anticipating those costs. We already had money that we felt was set aside for those. So really, I don't think that that's as long as it doesn't exceed what is anticipated or what the estimate was, I don't see it as being too much of a concern. As far as the lines that are there, we know now what we're getting, so I think we can make a decision on that. So it sounds like to me, the sunset clause, a few of the
I can boil them down for you.
yeah, let's do that.
The two up front that are really easy to incorporate, just to language.
Yeah.
Finding out what the cost of those meters are, just the cost, what's it gonna cost us? I want to know that.
Yeah.
No matter, it doesn't say it changes the
How
agreement.
much meters?
What's that?
The 4 meters?
Yeah, when we talk about installing meters, how many are involved? We're seeing 4. What's the cost of that?
166,000.
Right, but we're talking about that 166 may not exist. And it will
Covered by other
means, so I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Is it 166 or is it 10?
Okay.
So we know what that is. That
So that doesn't change
anything, it's just a knowledge piece for us. Number 9 with the clause about Johnson have the ability to expedite it, and then the sunset clause.
So really,
There's not a lot.
the changes to the actual agreement would be something in section 9 and the sunset clause. Everything else is just knowledge that we need to have available to us to make that final approval. Sounds like, is anyone?
Yes, and then just upfront, just on the definitions area, basically.
So the expediting of section 9, the sunset clause, and then the verbiage is insignificant, but I agree.
Is Johnson Water fine with the sunset clause? I mean, so that we do set up a time, and did you discuss that? I know we had talked about it another.
I don't, yeah, I wouldn't be able to speak at all for that. I don't understand exactly what it would look like to be able to.
It just would set a time that we would come back together.
Well, I understand. I don't know the language that would be.
Our Victory Pipeline contract is a 30-year contract. Is that accurate? 40. Okay, so it can even be something like that. I mean, nothing that we anticipate changing in the next 5 years, but something that does come in 30 years or 40 years or whatever it may be. That's what I anticipate. That's what I would anticipate, because this isn't something.
It's not likely that things necessarily change a whole bunch. It's more, as things grow and develop.
Sure.
It's always nice to have that spot and say, hey, let's check this, because it may make sense that something changes significantly for both parties. And maybe rates of water in the Uinta Basin change significantly. Just gives that opportunity in my mind to say, let's look at this contract. Let's discuss it. Like I said, if it's good, it'll be good.
Yeah, and we, obviously through this whole process, I hope we demonstrated definitely an openness to make sure that we get through this with the end goal in mind. So I'm sure that we're looking to doing, depending on what the language looks like, I don't think we're scared of it.
And I think the big problem in 40 years is because there's so much debt involved in there. I don't think that ours would be at that length of time. So
I think you'll find, legal counsel would generally say a 10-year time limit or something to look at. Well,
things change a lot faster nowadays than they used to.
Would you get with your legal counsel and with Johnson Water Board and talk to them about that and see what would be agreeable to them? And then we'll do the same. We'll get with our city attorney and talk to him. And I'd like to see it extended as long, because it is a good contract and I don't anticipate it needing to be changed for a good long time. But whatever's comfortable, there may be compromise there on both sides, but we can get that. And then the language in 9, I don't think really changes any of the meaning, and maybe we can get a little more clarity on what we want that to look like.
I'd be happy to look at that and propose some language in there. That is nothing other than, if I'm a citizen and I'm trapped in that mess, I want the ability for somebody to say, hey, you have the right to go forward. And it's not that anyone puts somebody in there on purpose, but, we have a situation with Western Chemical. And they sat out there in this limbo land for a long, long time with both entities involved. And that just helps that along. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and the good thing is within our boundary, within the agreement boundary, that isn't even an issue. That's why this is so critical to get in places, because they'd be done and gone already. And we have full jurisdiction to issue that connection. This is only talking about inside. So I need to set the parameters for section 9, because really the reality of this ever be coming into play is very minimal. There's only one area in Roosevelt City that this could even be applied, and that is south of pole line in the state. Meaning it's in Roosevelt city limits, it's in Johnson Water District, but it isn't in the agreement boundary that allows us the jurisdiction to issue the connection. And so as far as the industrial park and all that other area, it's all accounted for. And there's really not any development down there right now, but that's the only area that I can see that 9 would even pertain to.
I would see that probably a little differently, meaning as the city grows. I mean, tonight we've annexed folks in, it grows. I don't know if it's going to be now 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. But it's gonna change, you know, and that's my whole purpose for it. I don't think it's utilized a lot. It doesn't do anything, the language I'm thinking of, other than just grant Johnson the ability to expedite something, should they choose to.
Yeah.
That's all.
Perfect. So, we could entertain a motion. We've already had some feelings from the council. Do we have a motion? We'll open it up for that.
Mayor, I'd motion we table it until we make the amendments and get that price back with the intent that we move quickly.
Okay. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Are there any other motions before we vote? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of the motion as presented by Councilman Wade?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so, and that was Councilman Wade who made the motion and Councilman Burke section.
Later.
Oh, yeah, they both did. I heard him, he's closer.
Joe, I just heard you.
So we'll get working on that. We need the cost
I'm confused. Did you guys check?
of the meters, hard cost, and those three items.
It'll be happy to work on that language.
No, I didn't.
Question.
And you can share some language on the
Yes.
sunset.
Can I make just a statement of what I think is fact for the record? No debate you can ask questions if you choose. Because I listened to some of your conversation, first of all, I want to know, is there anybody in the room who lives north of Poline Road and east of State Street?
No, farther.
Are you in Johnson or just?
No.
Neither would they.
Where do you live?
657 South 100 East.
I think there are some people that ought to be in this room who are significantly impacted by this. First of all, there is, in my mind, a little debate over who came first, the chicken and the egg. And I believe Roosevelt City came first for those people. And I'll give you the dates because I've researched it. And those people who live in the Johnson Water District, who are east of State Street and north of Poline Road, are in now a taxing district of which they receive no service. The minute those people, Johnson does not impose a property tax at the moment. They have done within their district in the past. Because of a particular client, they haven't needed to. And whether that particular client will always be able to provide the revenue so that there is no tax, I hope so, but I don't believe that will necessarily be the case for this group of people. And I don't own anything there, I don't own the house, but I'm concerned for the citizens.
I do, I own 26 acres there.
Well, I'm concerned for you. Because anyone who's in a taxing district with no service, but the ability to be taxed, needs to be concerned. Now, whether you pay a special fee to them for these people, that's up to you. But they ought, the minute they come and they realize what's happened, and they bill when the property taxes is imposed, they will win the court battle of taxation without service in a special service district. That will impact your agreement immensely.
Can I comment to that really quickly? Central Utah Water Conservancy District is also a taxing district.
Yes, it is.
They tax 7 counties.
Yes.
There are several, there's many in this room that receive water from other sources other than facilities built by Central Utah, and there's many others in those other counties that do. However, they have imposed a tax, and they tax everyone within those counties, whether they receive those services or not. However, the amount that they can be taxed is a 0004, which would be the same thing that Johnson Water could tax. What that means is 0.0004% is the maximum that Johnson Water could tax. And so if you look at your house or your property taxes at the end of the year, you are correct that could happen. But we need to put it in perspective as to what is already happening and how much that really is.
I'm not here to debate you.
I'm not. I'm just providing
in my
facts.
opinion, the Central Utah Water District, and I've had some considerable experience with some of this, is a whole different animal. It's providing reservoir water. It's providing, it has a broader, than just a meter to your house. For the record, these people were annexed into Roosevelt City in February of 1981. Johnson Water became a special service district in January of 1983. They were in Roosevelt City before there was even a Johnson Water special service district. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I can promise you, when those people receive a tax notice, you lose, or Johnson Water loses. And the agreement for those, at least, is going to be in play because they're in a district, they're in a city that was there before the district was there. And I would only hope that some consideration for those people happen and you recognize that before the tax is a necessity. Now I just want that for the record, and I'm sure you maybe considered all that, but I don't think the public is aware or considered it.
We'll allow one more comment and then we'll move on. Go ahead, Dusty.
Well, there's a big misunderstanding on exactly how house districts and Roosevelt or municipalities work. You may have annexation, but a service boundary was established, which means it's for that service. Roosevelt City does not necessarily have to provide service in that area for that particular utility because we have minutes. Reason why that boundary was put there, we have minutes that Roosevelt City asked us to service that area because you had no infrastructure there. That's why that boundary was established upon request. And so Roosevelt City can operate within an overlapping boundary as much as Johnson Water can. It's the services, just like it would be if it was a power utility or a phone utility. They have overlapping. It just so happens that Roosevelt City provides water to their citizens as well.
Right. Well, and this is not a debate or discussion, but I will clarify one thing. I don't think the homes that were there or that are there now, it's not that I don't think they weren't there. And so, again, Johnson Water was at the request of Roosevelt City, where Roosevelt City may not have been able to get to, provided the service. The boundaries were set. They were set according to state statute. They were set according to the regulations and rules set in place at the time, which means they stand. And everything else is a matter of opinion. So appreciate the comments. We'll go ahead and move forward. And we do have some direction to go on that agreement, and I'm excited to see that move forward and finally actually be done with it, because it's been a long year working on that. Next we have noise ordinance discussion. We have Doug Murray here with us. He had came in previously and we asked to comment, and we asked him to come and get on the agenda, and so Doug will give some time to you. And we actually have done a little bit of research and things on ordinances and noise ordinances, because that's what this relates to. And so would you like a few minutes, or?
You know, I kind of expressed what I had, my feelings before. There's a reasonable time to do certain items of business. And I'm not an unreasonable guy. unless it's 4:30 in the morning. It's waking up everybody in the neighborhood, and I'm not the only person that has this concern in the neighborhood. And it's not necessarily just K&K. We also have, I'm just gonna call it a truck stop right behind Maverick on State Street. And like last Friday, all night long, a semi sat there and idled all night and had his reefer going. I've asked Roosevelt City Police Department twice, is there anything you can do? No, because it's right on the end of a truck route. We've got 2 truck stops, one behind Top Stop there on Highway 40, and then one behind Busy Bees. I didn't know we had a third unauthorized truck stop in the town of Roosevelt also. Now, since my discussion I've had, K&K's been pretty good. You know, I haven't heard the garbage cans get slammed on Saturday mornings at 4:30. They've been pretty reasonable. And it's been close to about 6. And, you know, I'm not saying, hey, we gotta do it at 8 like some cities do, but yet, let's meet in the middle. You know, I'm here to be reasonable.
Yeah.
And I know like Maureen White, she has a concern also with the same issues I have. And she's here tonight too.
Where is she?
She's right here.
Oh,
She
okay.
knew she was
Oh, you know what?
here.
I remember exactly where you live, because I knocked on the door. She's just, actually the first house you come to on the left, right past Burger King.
It's Frank Gack's daughter. So she's been in the community in her whole life.
Yeah. So, thank you, Doug. Do you have it, Mrs. White, do you have anything?
Just the same in the summertime, you know, it's all night,
Yeah.
because they have to have their air conditioner in there, but I don't know who opened up that ground for them to come
You
in.
know, I don't know that it has been open because it's owned by somebody other than the Maverick, and so
Yeah,
it's,
so they
maybe
just
a
started
fence.
and they just kept following.
I know who's, helping sell that ground. I can talk to them, because I think that's something that could be addressed with, hey, you need to put up a fence or something, or no trespassing, and I don't know, but anyways,
There was
appreciate
a
your
fence
concerns.
there.
Did you have, I thought I saw your hand go up.
No, I just, that's one of the biggest concerns there is not only noise, but also safety. That's one of the reasons they go really early in the morning. Because there's so much less traffic at it. And I know we were away from our home for a few years and came back, and there's 100 townhomes built behind us, and they have multiple of those big bins all around, and you hear them at those times in the morning. I know we have a business that also has residential around us. But I think one of the big things is those big, it's such a great service to our community, and they go real early to beat all the traffic so they can get those picked up, and you see a lot of the trucks, all the other different delivery trucks are there early in the morning, so they aren't getting stuck all the time. It's hard, you know, that's part of our progress, I guess, that we think's progress sometimes, but I'm concerned about the safeties in the morning.
One second, you had your hands up, please, state your name.
Yes, just from right here, right?
Sure, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
stand up, please.
Yeah, my name is Nettie Rolon. I'm actually a new resident. And I was just gonna add, you know, a comment that kind of goes against it. If you've ever, you know, worked, driven a a large vehicle like a dump truck, or worked in that industry of delivery service, yeah, it's preferable, and I've done that. It's preferable to go super early in the morning. You can start at 3 in the morning and, you know, try to get the busy work out of the day. However, when I was working in the delivery service, if a customer told me, hey, we don't want you to come at this time, it's too early, then it's business, I'd come. It made it inconvenient, but that's why, you know, the streets were built for, you know, the delivery service as well. So I mean, it makes it inconvenient, but I wouldn't say that it makes it unsafe. It definitely, they have to be more cautious, but at the same time, that's just the nature of the business. I'm sure that means it's kind of an inconvenience to them, because that means they are having to work a lot later. You know, maybe they have to go home at 2 as opposed to 1 or 3. But in the end, we're their customers, and, if we ask them, hey, there's a problem here, that's something they should address. And even though it's an inconvenience, I don't think it's a safety issue.
Thank you. Yes.
And here's a question for you. When does it become a noise ordinance to a nuisance problem? That is what I'd like to know also. And it is a health issue, with people. You can have psychological, physiologically, an excessive noise and sleep deprivation. And I think there's actually a state law that if you can prove that, they can come out here and do something about it. And I don't want to go through all the hoops. I don't want to go be a total, I was going to say it, butthead, and I don't want to go through all the stuff. I like to handle this as civil as possible. But if I have to do something, escalate it, I will. But why can't they coordinate? Hey, you get afraid on Tuesdays in the morning, we can come at Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. It's still a reasonable amount of time to go get the job done, and it's still looking after the citizens of Roosevelt City, which is really what the council is supposed to do. You're supposed to be elected to take care of the issues that Roosevelt City has. I've addressed it with some of the councilmen, and I've gotten nowhere. I've addressed it with K&K, and I've gotten nowhere. Is that Roosevelt City's policy? We just sit on our hands and not do anything? Because it looks like it if you watch KSL. And I don't want to be the guy that has to be a bad guy. I want to be a reasonable guy.
Well, you did make the comment earlier, and that's what, as a mayor, that's what I would hope. I understand, having, in my mind, if it's a big issue and it's widespread, then we should make a law about that or an ordinance. If it's an isolated incident, I would hope those parties could work that out and come to an agreement, because I'm with one that I don't like to put in laws in place to address a small situation that then everybody has to follow that really doesn't have that problem. And I don't know, I do get what you're saying. The trucks, for me, that would drive me nuts. I think there's things that we can do to address the situation without putting new laws in place, like working with the property owner and saying, hey, could you make sure that those trucks do not park there at night? Because there are 2 trucks out that need to leave. We're working it out with K&K and saying, can we come to an agreement? If it can't come to an agreement, then unfortunately the government has to get involved and we have to do something. So
what I've noticed is if it isn't in writing, a new council comes in or a new management at K&K and everything's forgotten. It's kind of like a new broom sweeps clean, but after a while, it starts leaving a little bit of dirt and a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah.
But like I said, if it falls within the nuisance, I'm happy with that. If we can fall underneath the nuisance. And I kind of feel like if we can't do something on the noise ordinance, it might be possibly a nuisance issue.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I get your point. So we've heard a lot from the public. Appreciate you being here. K&K, you're on the agenda as well. We've heard your concerns. I think we ought to give you some time. And do you have anything to add to that or talk about as we're discussing this noise ordinance?
Uncle Mark couldn't be here tonight, but those who don't know me, I'm David Coe, representing K&K. I understand Doug's concerns. I'm a person that gets up early in the morning, and you can hear, I'm not going to deny for a second, you can hear the trucks. Sometimes more so than others. Sometimes it is related to how full the dumpster is. Most of the time, the noise that is generated is related to how full the dumpster is. To get the container in the air and try to get it in the truck before it falls all over the ground and creates a mess. We have, as Doug had mentioned, and I hope that in what he said, we have instructed and rerouted, and kind of like the other gentleman there's talking to, we have instructed our guys not to be down there before 6 o'clock in the morning. The contract states 6 o'clock. That's mainly the contract is generated towards the residential side of things. We have done our own homework as well.
So so there is the contract that you have with Roosevelt City states.
It doesn't spell it out 100%.
It's kind of a gray area.
I don't think it necessarily says a time, but I think 6 o'clock is something within reason of other jurisdictions. So.
We've contacted Wasatch County. They have their own solid waste service district. Gentleman that runs that, his name is Clint Erkenbrack. Visited with him. They start at 4 o'clock. He said, "You have complaints?" "All the time," he said. He said, "But the problem is," he said, "is if we're not out there doing it, we're not going to get there." And we fit in that same thing to the extent that there are multiple businesses because of the location of the dumpster. If we are there during normal business hours, that area is blocked off. Burger King right down here is one of them.
And that's next to Doug's house.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sister White.
Yes, even more so.
She probably thinks the dumpster's gonna come in her bedroom.
It wouldn't surprise me, you know, and we've also
That's
instructed.
some of the blessing of old age, when you lose your hearing and things. There's all these things you
Yeah,
just
and she sits with earplugs every night.
don't- I'm not saying she has, but hopefully I do.
Part of life.
We've instructed the guys to try to be quiet and stuff when they're out and about, you know, but sometimes when you think you're being quiet, you're noisier than what you was if you wasn't trying. And so I sympathize with him because I do understand, you know, the biggest thing, you know, is, like Dave said, is the safety. When we're out running around that early in the morning, we're not backing into people's cars as much so. We've done our fair share over the years. Nobody in this room, I don't think if you went anywhere, you would find anyone that wants the garbage truck in the schoolyard when the kids are being dropped off or picked up, either one. You know, it's been requested by the school district and so everyone knows that the schools aren't right together. And so it takes us time to get around town, and it just makes sense to get this one while we're right here. You know, and so I sympathize, and we have tried. Hopefully it's been better.
It's been better.
And so I don't know what more to say. You guys have anything else that?
Appreciate the comments, you know.
Just cars parked in front of dumpsters and stuff too when they're, and then we have to go back and stuff like that, and then it gets later in the day.
Yeah.
The other aspect of it too that sometimes is overlooked is, my name is Brett Kittle, by the way.
Thank you. I was about to mention that.
The fact that Maverick is dumped, I believe it's every day. They have 2 dumpsters, and they're producing an immense amount of trash. Maverick is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. They have 2 dumpsters.
But man, Burger King dumped every day. Maverick's Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
So it's not that we're not trying to provide adequate service, or that, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but I mean, they are producing an immense amount of garbage, and there's not, I guess if we have to combat anything or whatever, I mean, I would personally think that a dozen dumpsters, so they were only dumped once a week, would be way more inefficient and less effective than, you know, providing
more of an eyesore.
If that makes any sense at all. Like,
Yes.
I think, there's some good things that have happened here between K and K. But I think the city could really do something more about the nuisance of the big trucks parking there and using this as a truck stop.
I agree.
I think that we really could make an effort there, and that would, I didn't realize, I've driven by there and seen them parked, but just haven't thought about them idling all night long, and that's something I think our city really could do something about there, and hopefully that you can continue to work with the neighborhood right there that's getting so much.
Doug had called several months ago, and I may have misunderstood about one dumpster in particular, and so I contacted the driver. You know, what are you doing down there that early, so forth, so on, and told him, I said, you know, don't go down there, and then it moved to a different dumpster, you know, and so like I said, we're working on it. We're trying.
I have 2 questions really quick. So 6 o'clock is about when they've been coming by. What do you feel is a reasonable time?
That's reasonable. Like I've talked to like some other cities, Some, you can't even mow your lawn until 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That's, to me, is unreasonable.
Sure.
4:30 is too early. 6, I think that's a reasonable time. I mean, I really do. Maverick dumpster, it's on the backside of the building, hardly any traffic. They could actually dump that later. I'm not sure Burger King's is. I see
It's
Maverick.
against the highway, facing the highway.
Is it?
Winterton's have a big issue.
Yeah.
It's an issue.
If six
Car
o'clock is a
traffic.
reasonable time, that sounds reasonable. And what I hear you saying also is you want something that's more in writing, so it's not just a verbal.
Yeah, I mean, verbal agreements I've seen in the past, no
Yeah.
offense against Roosevelt City, but they don't work. And I
So
can
my-
name a dozen instances.
My personal opinion is we don't need to create an ordinance. But we could look at the contract and say, you don't start in the residential areas or certain areas until 6 o'clock or something like that. That way it's not an ordinance that encompasses the whole city for everything, because there are certain things that, UDOT will do or Roosevelt City will do that are only on Main Street or certain areas of the city that don't affect the residents. And so I just wonder if the question would be could we address, the time seems reasonable. That seems reasonable with K and K at 6 o'clock.
For that area.
Yeah.
I'll give you the example of the high school. My own son goes to the high school at 5 o'clock in the morning with weights. If we're not there before then, we don't get in there.
Sure.
You're not in a real high,
That's not a high
residential
concentration
area.
residential
But
area.
there's a lot of parking around there that they could use that they.
This is true,
Because
by the way.
that's close, convenient, and that's
Too far
happens
away.
everywhere in all the.
Oh, that's our
Every place you go.
scenario, so we park the closest, no matter what, I mean, that's.
And it's usually in front of the trash can.
I had a driver call me today with 3 dumpsters
Your name?
my name's Carly.
Thanks,
Um, 3 dumpsters that he couldn't get to. Yes, he went back 3 times to one of them because there was a car parked in front of them all 3 times. He was running a little bit behind, but it made him even further behind because he had to keep going back. Because we don't just say, oh, car in the way, let's go. We try to give them the service that they pay for. And so same situation, he did go back, he did get all 3 of them, but one individual, he had to go back 3 different times because there's cars in the way. This was at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and see, this type of conversation is good because this helps us identify exactly what the concerns are. So a noise ordinance really does, doesn't affect that much as something like making sure that there's like a hatch mark in front of them saying, you can't park here. You know what I mean? And that's something simple that the businesses could do and say, no parking,
But I
you need to
also
keep these
get
clear.
in a residential area is a little bit different than out in
Sure.
an industrial area.
Right.
You can go a while in an industrial area but usually the schools,
That's the tough
we get phone calls all the time from janitors doing kids are coming, and they have to have them empty because there's not room for lunch if we're any later. Sometimes they serve lunch early enough that if you go after school started, but then you run the risk of recess.
Sure.
And kids kind of are drawn to these trucks for some reason. Even in the summer, they chase them and they want to see them. And
Right.
so in that case, to me, it is a safety issue because you don't see these little kids and.
The other thing too is residentially, the residential trucks, by all means, we are later in the day with the residential trucks, but on the commercial side, it's as close as what you live. I understand that, and I'm not denying that, but it's a kind of a total different animal as well, is what we're dealing with. And we will do our best to make it right with everybody.
In addition to that, the landfill wants us over there before 4 o'clock. And so if we start moving back what our pickup time is, then they're getting us out, and we've been gotten after time and time again by them because of being in there. They need time to cover the trash before they go home.
Yeah.
And so it's a domino effect is what it is.
Sure.
But because Ms. Murray over here brought it to our attention, we have tried to change our routes around. We're still in the process of doing some, but in his area, we have tried to make it so no one's there before six.
Yeah. And I guess the question would be how to make that permanent without creating laws and everything else. Does that make sense? How to have that within a contract or something? Yes, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yes, Nettie Rolon again. Just wanted to comment. It sounds like the main question to not make a noise ordinance, to clarify, would be to make an addendum or something added where you put the number of feet within private property. So for example, if it's an industrious area or if it's at the school, I think it's fine. You could, you're more than 200 feet away from a house, no problem going there early. But if there is a house that's right next door to a business, then, the rule could be if you're within 100 feet, you go after 6. If it's that sounds like that would be resolving what you're asking for without making a whole new, ordinance for noise. It's just clarifying and, what's already there.
Sure. Thank you.
One other thing, just another example. A little over a month ago on a Saturday morning, I had to go take care of an oil rig over Bonanza Way. At the stoplight there at KFC in Vernal. We contacted the Vernal haulers as well. They start at 4 o'clock as well. The one hauler in particular, this particular hauler, their location is out by the landfill, which is east of town.
Way up down mountain.
Yeah, towards town. And at 6 o'clock I left here, and when I hit the stoplight there at the KFC, that particular hauler and they do the same thing that we do. They start at one end and work their way over. He had made his way to that, he had gotten to that point from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. He'd made his way through town. And I guess my point being is, we're not the only ones that do it.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. I'm going to comment then, Dave. One of the things I think we need to do is definitely not let this, just whatever. But I think I think we need to get with K&K and educate ourselves on things and see what are possibilities. It may not be a noise ordinance solves. It may be some other things. I can think of several different things. I do appreciate the conversation and the comments that have been had. I do think that we can come to something that's a little more permanent, but also that works and everybody gives input. And this is kind of a hard setting because, it's hard to finalize things and that's why we do meet with committees, not in a public setting, because then we can get with certain individuals and get information and all those types of things. And so I think we ought to do that and look at it and see if there is a really good way to do that. And it may be totally separate from something as we have discussed, and I talked with Dave, I thought of, our planning and zoning, and when we come with site plans, and part of the problem is not being able to get into a business because the garbage can is the last thing that they thought about. And so how do we mitigate some of those things on the front end so that your job is easier, whether you're there at noon or whether you're there at 4 a.m. And so that doesn't really take care of some of the issues that are already there with some of these facilities, but I think that's something that we need to implement for the future. The other things we can look at is, do we have certain areas where there are cars parking in front of those that shouldn't be, and how do we address that? And I think we can take care of a lot of these things to help you, and then that also will in turn help public. So I think a lot of good comments. I don't think anybody's ready to, we don't have anything to do. We just wanted to get the comments and the feedback and those types of things. Dave, you had a comment, and then we'll probably move on unless somebody has something really that we haven't, that's like just light bulbs going off. So, go ahead, Dave.
So my thought is, I also agree with, what's been discussed tonight, solving this in the contract in writing. I know that their contract is up for renewal in December, I believe. But one thing I want to mention is I called Ken Bassett, who used to be the Vernal City manager for several years, and talked to him about this issue specifically. And he said they do have an ordinance in place, and the garbage pickup does not start in Vernal, or at least it shouldn't be until, certain hours.
On the residential side.
Is that on the residential
That's on the
side?
residential side.
We have that somewhat.
Yeah, and I didn't clarify that, but he does have an ordinance, and there is an ordinance.
The Vernal hauler that currently has a contract for Vernal City cannot start hauling residential trash until 7 a.m.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for the clarification. And anyway, I think it'd be good to see it go into the contract. And I believe strongly in customer service. That's another thing I've been thinking. I know you guys do too. You guys are doing your very best, and I appreciate that. So let's, continue to work on this, and love to see it resolve itself. And then if we can do something in the contract, that'd be good too. So.
Thank you. And you had a comment. Please state your name.
Al Kell. I'm not with KK, but actually Mayor Bird did talk about it a little bit, but address that with planning and zoning, to where when you look at plat maps, before that's approved as it goes, say, hey, how can trucks get in and out of here? Because they did a poor job of emergency, in my opinion, because when you watch how delivery goes in there, when you watch how garbage gets picked up, when you look at how it is compared to their adjoining neighbors, it's just a very poor design. So just something to look forward to in the future.
Right. Chip, the last one.
One of the main things that I don't think that people realize as far as in the industry of delivery and pickup, and I'm not been in the sanitation side with the garbage trucks, but I have been in delivery. There is a huge safety issue when you're talking about a big truck all the time, in and out of places. I can't tell you the number of instances that cars want to get to where they want to be, whether that's behind you or not when you're moving. There is a safety issue there. And I have seen that numerous times, and I give them credit that I feel lucky that they don't have more instances that they do. But there is a huge issue because people do not see that big truck as let him do his job. They're too much with blinders on, trying to think that they're going to get to where they're going to get as quick as they can get. Right. And there is a huge issue there because in our own business, early hours is sometimes the best time because you can get in and out of places safely without having somebody that you're always trying to watch over your shoulder you looked right here, but somebody pulled in right behind you.
Sure. And that could be, those safety issues and concerns could be addressed in the site plan and before construction. And we just need to figure out how to deal with those. And so let's work together on that and see what we can come up with. Find somewhat of a permanent solution, and maybe it's not entirely this or entirely that, but then we can go get together and figure out what are some of the obstacles you're dealing with on a regular basis, and how do we eliminate those as well as eliminating a nuisance to somebody else or something else. So a lot of good conversation. I appreciate everybody's input, and we'll keep working on that. And thank you. I said that was the last comment. Are we good?
Yes, we do need to make assignment to the staff about the trucks working down there in idling. That needs to be followed up on.
Yeah,
something to do.
I agree. Let's address that immediately. And then let's follow up with K&K. And it may not hurt to go with Dave or somebody and drive around and say, okay, what are your worst areas? What are you dealing with? And then let's start thinking about ways to help you with that, and I don't want to make a big deal out of something, but honestly, for the future and the bigger we get, and if we can make things more efficient for you, and at different times, that's good for everyone.
There's some places and some times that just, I shared with you the other day, was trophy and design. I was training a driver and we was running a little bit behind anyway. And so we ended up there at a peak time for them, not knowing it, not intentionally. We ended up being a big stumbling block to the people that was trying to get into the soda shack, people that was coming to work. And I told the driver I was training, I said, okay, let's just pull up here and park for a minute, let things clear out. We pulled up, parked, nothing happened. Okay, we're obviously the stumbling block here, so let's, we worked through it, we was able to get out and stuff, but 99% of the businesses here in town don't have room to relocate dumpsters and stuff, and so, but I appreciate the, absolutely, I'm thankful for the opportunity of being able to maybe go and look at some of these other potential problems.
Yeah. Well, residential, they can bring it out to the road, but dumpsters you can't.
Sure. I'm thinking that in that instance, I think the Karens own that whole spot. Maybe they could, I mean, if somebody, it may be inconvenient to the business owner to walk 150 feet to throw their trash away. But if that's what they have to do, maybe that's what they have to do. I know Kate doesn't like to dump mine up on the hill in the wintertime. I can't figure that out. But I feel like it's my responsibility, if that's the case, to put it down, even though it may be inconvenient for me, to put it down at the bottom of the road where they can access that. And so maybe we need to be a little more conscientious of it, I think, ourselves of yeah, it's convenient to walk out my back door and toss my garbage bag in. But then sometimes it's not practical at all to do that. So I might have to make a little effort to, do that. So
I think as much as anything, Mayor, we want to be able to provide a service that is problem-free, is trouble-free. We want to be able to take care of everyone the best way that we can. And as much as I like the idea of the communication, I hate it because I don't want it to be an ordeal. Like I just want to be able to do our job and do our job and not discriminating against anything that we've talked about tonight. But I hate that Roosevelt City has to be involved with this. I don't like that at all. I want to be able to just do our job.
Do what we're hired to do.
sure, and I get that. Unfortunately, you work for a municipality and you're ran by the citizens of Roosevelt. And so that's our job and that's tough. And I know, but we do appreciate what you do and we do want to make this something that's good. Did you have a comment there?
Yeah, just one. I appreciate the work that the two parties have done. I went and visited with Mr. Murray in November for a meeting, I believe it was. We visited about some of his concerns in more depth, and also visited with K&K. And I'm glad to hear that some conversations have taken place and some things are improving. Is that correct? I would just urge patience in the process because it seems sometimes that things don't move quickly, but they are complex matters. One domino affects another and another affects another, and we have to make sure when we move forward with things that we're really doing the best for everybody involved. So appreciate the work that's been done, but I'd encourage patience throughout the process. And as we continue to look at it more, I'm sure we'll come to a better resolution in time.
Thank you, Councilman White. Appreciate everybody being here. Let's move on to the next item. We have, remind me of your name. Clint here with us with CRS. Would you go ahead and, would you like to?
Well, what we've traditionally done is receive statement of qualifications for contractors. And from the engineering firms, they submit these and we add them to the pool of our engineers to be able to select them for work as we proceed on. We have a number in our pool and we've received theirs. Staff has reviewed it. We recommend adding them to our pool. It's just adding them as an option to our approved vendor list that we can use. So, but if they want to say anything, it's fine.
Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, please.
I'll come to the podium. Just habit, I guess. My name is Clint Allen. I'm with CRS Engineers. We've been here in the past several times. It's been probably a year or two since I've come here myself, but we appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the pool. We have been in the Vernal and Roosevelt area for the last 20 years as an engineering firm. Prior to being CRS, we were engineering services, and we since have combined services with CRS, and that's allowed us to provide a lot more areas of service, a lot more opportunities and fields that we can specialize in and bring to bear. One of the things, a couple things I'd like to mention that we are really good at, that we excel at, that I feel would be of use is we have an engineer on staff who is an expert in wells and water wells, both municipal and irrigation water wells. We have an entire department dedicated to transportation. I'm involved in the water wastewater design side of things. That's pretty much all I do day in and day out is water design, sewer design. And because of that, it's allowed us to have engineers who are specialized and have a really good depth of knowledge in a particular area that we can bring in and address different needs that the city may have. As you know, Mayor, we also have a structural engineering department that is exceptional. So we provide pretty much full service. And I just thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thanks, Glenn.
Where's your main office? Where do you?
Where's our main office?
Next to the.
We have multiple offices spread throughout Utah. The office that I work out of is in Vernal. And that would be the main office that we would work out of to serve the city of Roosevelt. We do have offices in Salt Lake and Farmington and Logan. And if we need those expertise, we bring them in, and they then come in and work with us out of our office. But as far as somebody that you would be dealing with on a day-to-day or a project-by-project basis, it would be somebody out of our Vernal office.
Thank you.
Yes, and I was just going to say, I've used CRS personally. I had no idea they were actually going to be here tonight, so it wasn't me that brought them over, but I'm glad you're here. They helped me design and engineer my home, and so that was my first experience with them. It was called, I can't remember what the company was called.
Engineering services back who it was back then, but it's still basically the same people that we worked with before.
And I worked with CRS on a couple of projects in Vernal in 2011, 12, street projects.
Yes.
Before you were combined with engineering services. And I was very impressed.
Yeah.
And I've also worked on many projects with engineering services. So I think the two of you, I'm very impressed with. I haven't worked with you since you've been combination, but I'm sure you do. Excellent job.
We just completed a project with Burdick, and you probably weren't involved, but I worked extensively with Kelly and Lee on a road crossing project for a canal that we're piping.
Great, thank you. So I guess we would entertain a motion to accept them as a qualified engineer.
I'll make the motion to accept them and the qualification.
Pool.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilman Burdick and second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Welcome to the team. Our favorite thing of the year.
If you just get with me sometime, so we can get.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get with you tomorrow. Well, the water summer's tomorrow, so probably Thursday. Thanks.
Is the annual open public meetings training. So we'll turn the time over to Carolyn for that.
No, I'm gonna turn this on everything. And what happens to me? to remind you, this was for complying with state law by doing this.
Yeah.
You can begin your county committee report.
Where are you coming to us from? Let's do that.
Salt Lake.
What brought you to the area?
Oh, that's a job.
Oh, well, I'm glad to have you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments tonight as well.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Let's move to some of these reports from standing committees. Do you have anything for us, Councilman Mike?
I don't have anything from committees. I can report a little bit on the ULCT board meeting Monday this week. There's a local officials day. That's where a lot of high school students and things that are participating in student government or are involved with the mock city council type thing can go meet with our state officials. That's January 30th, 2019 at the Salt Palace and at the state capitol. You do have to register. We can get information on that through ULCT.
When was the date again?
January the 30th.
I just made a commitment for that day.
They talked about just the annual convention has kind of outgrown the Sheraton Hotel and Convention Center. So in 2020, they've made arrangements to have it at the Salt House. They have to kind of piggyback with other smaller conventions, and so they can't. I think they've had a certain block of time at the Sheraton every year, but there will be a window between, I can't remember if they write it down, but it'll be a month or two time that they'll pair ULCT up with another smaller convention, and then they'll share the space. The ULCT has been proactively trying to get local government, especially city government officials, to make a little video with them that talks about how cities are addressing growth and housing affordability. And this is just to kind of get the word out that cities are really being proactive in spite of what you might hear on the news about growth and about housing affordability. The finger kind of points off of the news that the cities are making it hard for everybody or whatever. They want just to have another voice. So if we want to do that, I haven't committed to be on there. Usually it's the people that show up to the actual meeting in Salt Lake that are right there and they do a video. But I do know we are talking about, it's like 2 minutes is all they actually show. The other thing they talked about is they were discussing whether to have a amicus brief subgroup with the ULCT, so that if a city is involved with litigation and it goes and they get to the point where they can file an amicus brief, do we want the ULCT to offer that service? And then the other thing, that was kind of the end of the board meeting. Then there was a legislative policy committee meeting. I think they hold every week, but they schedule a board meeting so that falls once a month on that. The only thing there, some legislation coming up has dealt with secondary water, and up until now, there are municipalities who offer secondary water that's not metered. This will put into place requirements that it'll be metered by a certain amount of time.
We learned that lesson.
I didn't know if it would affect us, but there was just some things about retirement, police and firemen. I didn't really understand, but those are some legislation things they were discussing.
Thank you for the report. Any questions for Councilman?
that you're involved there.
Yeah, that is a good thing. So, Councilman Laborn, we'll go ahead and do the reports since we started. We skipped you. Do you have anything to report?
No, I missed the meeting Monday. Maybe the city manager on the Parks and Recreation can report on that. Let me get
Pretty slow at this point.
Yes.
We have junior jazz that's running, and that keeps most of them busy, but most of the parks are closed up. It's pretty quiet.
Councilman Baird, do you have anything for us tonight?
Might be more Ryan's alley here, but I think we're talking about doing a citywide cleanup this spring. Probably be good to start thinking about that now. City manager and I talked about maybe working on cleaning up some of the areas behind homes on 50s along the gulch there. There's a whole bunch of stuff in that Goat Creek that can be cleaned up, but we'd have to work with homeowners and figure out a way to do that. So I don't know where we're at, city manager might know, but I don't know if that's something we're still talking about doing or.
Generally, the county will establish the dates here in the next, usually talking about the county council, they didn't talk about it this last one. Probably the next one, they'll talk about it. And they'll set a week with a free dump. And then if we can kind of work according to that same one, so it's anybody that's there cleaning up, either take it, dump it, and utilize the free dump week. It's always helpful.
Usually the third weekend in April.
I know in the past, I know you've been in charge of that in the past as well, but I think it's a good idea, like you say, to have certain areas that we can focus on, and then we can actually go to religious groups and then just other organizations. And so if they have a group together that they put together to clean, then we have some areas to take it to. I know that worked well in the past.
The most recent discussion we've had about that, the Interfaith Council had agreed to try to find some areas to suggest. I think we didn't do it last year, and so that might have to be, the fire might have to get started again there, but.
Yeah.
Speaking of cleaning up in the western hills down there, it didn't look like they were cleaning out the old swimming pool in the big tree.
That is part of my report, but I can talk about that real quick. The Western Hills, they did clear out the hotel. They cleared out everything above surface, but because the frost is so deep and hard, they weren't able to do stuff, including foundation, pool, and unfortunately the tree, which is less of a attraction to what we're not looking for. So those areas that transient was camping out, those have been removed. So our biggest worry for the property has been removed, which is good. But we are still working with them. They haven't used all the money for the landfill that the county was helped us with. So they're expected to come back. They clean it up until spring, until it thaws out.
Was it a local company doing that? Or
I have a Duchesne.
Duchesne. I have that down clear.
Yeah.
I mean.
You'd have a bonfire out there with all the stuff you tore out from the hotel to on the ground to dig it out.
Anyway, it sure looks a lot better and all. That's great.
Their large track, they would have been better progress, but they did break their large track up. So that was one of the other pieces of the equipment they had left. They wouldn't do it.
Well, I just want to thank the council for the conversation we had with the Johnson Water Agreement tonight. That's been something that's been worked on for a really long time. Many of us have spent many hours on that, staff and Johnson Water, including council members that were assigned to that and took that responsibility. I appreciate the comments that were made, the changes that we'll look at to be done for the next council meeting. We have a little homework in getting that cost identified and nailed down so that we know for sure. And And with the things that have been discussed tonight, I don't see really any major hiccups in the future to get that done and get those things changed and move forward and move on. It's been long enough. So appreciate that. That's all I have to report. Just thank you. Aaron, or Councilman Waite, do you have?
Nothing new relative to Johnson. I appreciate the conversation too. I think long term, but we looked at the comments that Gordon shared with us tonight. Would it make sense for some realignment of that boundary? I don't think that's something that happens quickly, but it's a very valid point. You know, if you're in a taxation district, the conversation will take place. I don't know if it becomes necessarily part of that agreement, but that's just good policy, in my opinion. That's all I really have to say about it. Other than that, on the Red Bud Road front and UBIC, it's kind of a quiet time as well. So appreciate the work everybody's doing.
Councilman Burger.
I don't have anything to bring up. Interesting council meeting though.
Yeah.
I don't think this is.
I think one thing that would be great for us, but to pass on to our folks from the street side. We've had an interesting snow year, which has been good. We've had snow, but I think they've done a really good job keeping things cleaned up, you know, throughout the city. And that's something they need to understand our appreciation of that.
Do we try to do the sidewalks along the highway? Is there any assignments on sidewalks along the highway and stuff for public, you know, in the main areas to get?
The property owners are responsible to remove the sidewalks for their area. Obviously, there are some areas that are not, but we don't have equipment that we
use on it.
We don't use. So at this point, we don't have anything. We could look at that. We just
I
haven't.
think it'd be something to look at because like the bridge, you know, just east of us there, nobody watches that very close or just some of those areas. And
Instead of getting equipment to do that, is that something that you could contract to somebody that already has it and they could quickly just hit those areas? And
we could truly
I think it'd be, and after the state goes by, they just are just a mess. You know, people are walking out in the highways, but they'd have to wait till after the state highways blown all over sidewalks, but I think it'd be a good thing we could look into.
one quick thing, every time I think of you, Councilman Burdick, I think of this gun range. And we've got it on the agenda for our Economic Development Committee meeting. Kind of wanted to pass it by them as well and see if we could just kind of utilize that committee to take that project and just use a few of those committee members. Have you be a part of that if you'd like. There's a few of the citizens that would like to be a part of that and use that committee, kind of form a subcommittee based on that committee that would research some of that stuff and bring it back to the Economic Development Committee and then in turn bring it back to the City Council and work it that way to where we have already people there that are invested in working and showing that instead of trying to find new people to do that.
Yeah, let's call me up and let's have a visit about that more in depth.
Okay.
You know, if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions.
Sure.
Detailed things. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, but maybe we do lunch or something and do that. Okay. Sounds great. Should we do the open public meetings training? Or
You want to do my report or you want to do it?
You still have a voice. it sounds
I
like.
still have a voice, and so, but I was running that risk today, and so I typed up my report. So I'll share it with you, and then I'll just kind of read a little bit. I figured, as we talked with the folks, I would try to be more concise.
Oh boy, I was a little worried with all those pages you were going to come up here and start reading.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna pass it out. Give it, but just to kind of show you what's happened over the last little while and where we're at on things. Cottonwood Creek is kind of on hold because of the National Park Service. They're closed with the government shutdown. So we'll pick that up when she gets back working. CDBG we're working on, the survey was actually collected today. And so I think they're down in your neighborhood, right? Councilman Berg? Yeah. So anyway, we're hoping to get that off the ground and get a sidewalk along 500 East. Master planning, Horace wasn't able to make it tonight, but I think they're planning is only tomorrow and economic development next week. So the Main Street firm, we have working on that project, same thing. I think they're working, planning is only tomorrow and economic development later on in the month. We continue to increase the public engagement. We're very active there, and we're pretty happy that we keep a good contact with our public. Talked about Western Hills, so I'll skip that one. Crescent Point, they are starting a frac job down south of State Street. Just in case you get any questions or know, they're expecting about 1,000 gallons a minute out of there, and they have put in the infrastructure to extend the line and put in the connection. So they've done all that, and they've also helped us with a few other pieces of infrastructure we needed in order to help them. So they've been a great one. We love working with Crescent Point, and they've really been a very good help in the community.
This is south of Stonegate, right?
It's south of Stonegate. That one I always said.
I thought you said State Street.
Oh no, I'm sorry. South of Stonegate is to the bottom there. The romance. 800 South, that project for the curb cut sidewalk is out to bid. We rebid it, as you recall, because the bids came in higher than we expected. This is the time of year to bid stuff out. We're excited about that. Just a couple of these ones with UDOT and what they're doing, and so we can be watching that and how that affects us. They are taking from Highway 40 and Pole Line Road out by the airport terminal, and they'll mill and repave from there to Fort Boucher.
Is that for this year, isn't it?
Yes, it's out to bid right now. So it should happen during this year. It will inconvenience people that are close through. Hopefully they can work with business owners and we help. And as it gets closer, we'll advertise that out now. So street light, they are going to put in a safety light on Highway 40 and third, and actually I think it's second south. I put third. It's actually second south here where the junior high comes across state and then to the highway. They're going to put in a safety light. It's not a hawk light, but it is more than what, if you know the light on 121, the blinking yellow light up there, it is a step up from that, but a step down from the hawk. So it will be yellow, but it will be activated when pressed.
So Highway 40 and 3rd South.
Actually, second south is right up here. I wrote the third,
Okay.
it's actually second. So, right, this subway. And they'll also do one at 121 where the other blinking yellow light is up there on Gates Drive, or the Gates at the clubhouse. They'll change that one and put one in there.
It actually stops traffic.
It helps to try to stop traffic, but it will be a yellow, not a hard red. So if somebody press it, it'll blink yellow only when it's been activated in order to help people.
Thank you. I'm with you now. Just tuned out.
That's fine. Anyway, they've got a contractor, they've got it all given out. They're just waiting on the lead time for materials. One you'll see on the PO list, we have, with our pool of engineers, under 150,000, we look at getting a various group and we send that out to our pool. This project is under there. We were curious if it would be over, but thankfully it's came in very well. It's price wise for engineering, but we have 3 projects we'll bid out. The citywide chip seal, and a lot of that is in the northeast where we cut on the last budget. We got over several areas, but it's kind of northeast. That's our quadrant to work on this year is really that northeast. And so we'll mill and pave. That'll be 600 North, some of those cul-de-sacs in Yak, trailer park there. And then it's citywide cracks, so we'll identify those. We'll break those up into 3 different projects, and assuming we approve that in the PO list, we'll proceed with that agreement there, and it has an amount. So
I would like to be invited, if it hasn't already happened, to the meeting with the engineers on the design process for these projects.
be great.
I have some strong opinions on it.
Great, of course. We'd love to have you. They're just in that first part of the stage where we're gathering information. So we haven't got to the point where we're reviewing plan sets yet.
Great.
But when we get to the review plan sets, yeah, absolutely, that'd be great. Thank you. Just a few things. We like to make sure we have projects continually in our pipeline. So you'll see that we're working on building projects, we are working on bidding projects, and we're working on grants to get projects. And so these next ones are our EDA, our FAA, $9 million for that one's been submitted. EDA is it's a $2 million grant for about $3 million, right in the range. We're working with our DC consultants to prepare a $10 million grant to expand 8 South from highway to extra from highway 40 over across the board. So anyway, we're just finishing sidewalk study and the lighting study, and they're almost done. And we're making great progress on the GIS system. And if you have any desire, I'm happy to show you the resolution. It's pretty amazing detail to get down to. So and after the training, I do have 2 items of possible closed session that I'd like to be able to talk to you about. So anyway.
Thank you.
And there it is.
So really quickly, let's go to the, thank you, Ryan. Let's go to the purchase orders and get that out of the way. Has everybody had a chance to look through the purchase orders?
Move, we approve.
Second. A motion by Councilman Lincoln and second by Councilman Wade. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Mayor, in the essence of time, would it be okay if we pushed our proposed meeting to training to next month?
Is that a possibility?
Are we up against a hard timeline for people, or?
We just like to do it at the beginning of the year, but
I say, well, there's 2 options there. I kind of agree with that. If we could, and we're not in any, it's just yearly, correct? Okay.
Yeah, it's only no thing.
So do we have any others that really want to go through that tonight?
No. I'll say mine is surely selfish. To get out early, but
Yeah. Let's, if it's legal and we can, let's do it, push that to the next meeting.
and hope the next meeting is a little longer than this one.
Oh,
Hey.
definitely not.
If somebody would quit putting all these agenda things, we wouldn't have long meetings. No. I agree. There's also an option, and I'm not sure,
there is an online option.
to do that online individually. And so it'll actually print out a certificate, you can email it or send it to Carolyn and do it at your own time. So that's also an option that maybe we could look at.
The law says if you have the training, it doesn't tell you how.
Correct. With Central Utah Water, they do a brief 5-minute overview, but then they require, I think it's every 2 years that you take the online training, and it's, it's 45 minutes, and it prints out a certificate. You do it on your own time, and then you keep those certificates on hand.
From the staff side, we like to have it when everybody's here, so that we know it's all done. But as long as you guys commit to do it on your own.
Let's plan on next meeting. Let's put it on the next meeting's agenda. Appreciate that. Well, the only other thing is then, to go into closed session, I have talked with the city manager. I do believe it won't be long, but a brief closed session meeting to discuss litigation issues and also the transferring of land into trust with the tribe. and also possible purchase of some property, Winterton property, near 8 South. So to negotiate that. Before we go into closed session, is there anything else that we need to discuss so that when we come out, we can just be done?
Just wanted to thank you for letting me join you guys today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to our community.
Thank you.
What are you involved with? What gets you out here in Roosevelt?
Oh, yeah, you missed it. My wife, she got a job here
Oh,
at the
great.
hospital.
Super. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. Yeah, thanks for everything.
Thank you.
See you.
So, like, going into closed session was, yeah, I just wanted to.
We gotta have a motion.
Right, do we have a motion to go into and out of?
I'll make that motion, Mayor, that we go in and discuss.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Get your roll call.